as this, our annual CPE Day, which is hosted at Hood Theological Seminary. And the purpose of a day such as today is to, let me see, okay, let me make sure I close that out. Okay. The purpose of a day like today is to introduce the community and our students to CPE programs. As many of you know, at Hood, we have the Center for Chaplaincy, but we also teach in the academic arena about CPE, and we teach many of um, the concepts that you find within CPE programs. However, we do not do the clinical work. And as a result of that, we want to make sure that our student population and the community at large will have an opportunity to meet many of the educators and many of the program directors from the area and the region, and even as far out as the Mayo Clinic, who sent a video to present to you today. So welcome everyone into this space. We're not going to be here incredibly long, but just long enough for the process, just long enough for the process. And we will also have an opportunity for breakout sessions where students can meet with educators and program directors. And so we have assigned, or we have set up 8 breakout rooms so that each program can have a space. We have invited about 6 to 8 programs to come. And so we look forward to seeing everyone in this space on this morning. And for those of you who have not had a chance to meet in person or haven't seen you in a long time, we're of course we'll have a moment to welcome one another and to just share what you wish to share and about yourself as we come together on this morning. My name is Clay Barrow, and I'm delighted to serve as an adjunct professor of pastoral theology at Hood Theological Seminary and the director of the Center for Chaplaincy and the director of supervised ministry. And so I welcome you into this space. And so if we could just take a moment to introduce yourselves, and then we will begin with a word of prayer. I think a word of prayer would be really good. And then having a centering moment, a centering moment. So if you could introduce yourselves, starting anywhere.
I guess I can start.
Go
Um,
ahead. Uh-huh.
Bishop Michael A. Frencher, retired bishop in the AME Zion Church, also serving here at Hood as the bishop in residence, and looking forward to working with these faculty and staff of Hood Theological Seminary and all of the various programs.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
I'll go next. My name is Audrey Johnson. I am a student at Hood Theological Seminary. My major is I'm pursuing a Master of Divinity. Initially, it was a Master of Divinity of Leadership, but after having spent some time with a brother of mine who was literally dying from cancer, I realized that my pull and my gift and my desire is to pursue the area of chaplaincy. So that is what I'm pursuing is a master's degree, a Master of Divinity with a focus on chaplaincy. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Okay, I guess I go next. My name is Wanda Chavis. I'm a student here at Hood Theological Seminary. My degree is in general studies, but I have recently changed it to pastoral care and theology. And so my project is on, matter of fact, chaplaincy in the school system. And so I am pursuing chaplaincy myself because it speaks to me really more than being in a pulpit inside of a church. So I am from Raleigh and I am on my last leg of this program.
Wonderful. Welcome. And Wanda is also one of our D-Min students at Hood. Wonderful. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go right ahead, Ramel. It's good to see you. We're just kind of introducing ourselves, and just a name and where we're hailing from and what we currently do and why we're here.
Okay. I might as well do it, right?
Might as well.
Yeah, Chaplain Ramel Cuenca. I'm the co-founder and COO of ICPT, and also currently working at the VA.
Wonderful. Welcome, Ramel.
Thank you.
Everyone, this is Jamisha Wilson Knight. It's good to see you. Hi, Dr. Barrow.
Hey there.
I am a DMin student. And hi, Wanda. She's one of my cohort. So hi to everybody, right? I get excited when I see faces. I said I'm a DMin student, originally from Philadelphia. I live in Greensboro. My heart is to serve. And that's what God has been working with me on. And my biggest piece is, what does it look like? Not just self-care, but caring for self. So I came to sit and see what that looks like. My current major is pastoral theology with a concentration in care. I'm looking at if I need to transition. So Dr. B will be talking. That's why I'm here today.
Great, great. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, my name is William Scott, and I am a pastor with the CME denomination. Been with them for 33 years, and I've always been involved in the prison ministry. And there's a prison system now that has an opening for chaplaincy, and they're requiring CPE. Amen.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome, William. If we could see you, that would be a blessing.
I'm sorry, I'm not dressed.
Okay, okay, okay. We do understand. And William, we're grateful for the cameras just having a headshot, giving us a headshot, because there's no telling what's happening below the camera. Well, blessings upon you. Others, please.
I am Reverend Dr. Carolyn P. Squires, pastor of the Gillfield Missionary Baptist Church in New Bern. I'm just exploring other options at this time.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. We welcome you.
Good morning again. I am Reverend Patricia A. Bufford. I am the pastor of the Centennial AME Zion Church in the city of Buffalo, New York. I am currently not in school. I do have a unit of a CPE from the Association for Clinical Pastoral Education. I always have had a passion in chaplaincy. I am a retired New York State Correction Officer of 25 years. And chaplaincy for me, it's a good fit, although I love pastoring, but I also know that with a combination of chaplaincy, it can also assist in caring for the souls of people. And so I'm here to explore and see what the program offers. I do have a seminarian degree from the Alliance Theological Seminary, which was in the Nyack area, but now is currently in the New York City area. And so I'm just here to explore.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. Next, please.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Catherine Higgins. I am a certified educator at Duke University Hospitals in Durham. I'm an ACPE educator and really happy to be with you this morning.
Wonderful. Welcome, Catherine. It's good to see you, my friend. All righty. Are we missing anyone?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Betty Anna Bremer, and I am a certified educator with the Association of Clinical Pastoral Education, and I serve with Atrium Health, and my CPE program is in behavioral health. Good to be with you all today.
It's good to see you again, Betty Anna. Yes, indeed. Others.
Good morning. Good morning to all. Good morning, Bishop Frencher. Good to see you. And to my wonderful advisor, Dr. Clay Barrow, not the board who has harassed me until I finally succumbed to coming to Hood. My name is Margaret Robertson Anderson. I am an ordained elder in the AME Zion Church since 2008. I am in my last 2 courses of the Master of Arts in Chaplaincy at Hood. I just finished my 4 units of CPE training, which was a delight and very eye-opening, and it was such a blessing. I always wondered where my place was in ministry once I accepted and believed that God had called me into the ministry. And being a pastor's wife, has its challenges. And so I've always had a passion for spiritual care, giving. And when I entered Hood, I entered into the Masters of Divinity program because that was basically all that I felt was offered for me. But when the Masters of Arts in Chaplaincy opened up, I quickly jumped ship and went there. And it has been a blessing. So thank you.
And thank you. And
So I
welcome.
am married to the Reverend Dr. Derek R. Anderson, pastor of Soldiers Memorial AME Zion Church, born and bred in Salisbury, and I am associate minister there with him.
Wonderful. Thank you, Margaret, and welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, let me be quiet. Go ahead, Dr. Everett.
No, you go ahead, Emily, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Emily Viverette. I'm the Director of Faith Health Chaplaincy and Education at Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist. Our name keeps changing. It's hard to keep up. We have 5 medical centers that we can have CPE interns, one in Winston, one in Lexington, one in High Point, one in Wilkesboro, and one in Davie County. I'm also a proud Hood alum. I graduated with my DMin in 22, and I'm currently an adjunct in pastoral care. So grateful to be on the call with you all.
Wonderful. Welcome, colleague. Are there others who wish to share who you are?
Well, I guess I'll go ahead. John Everett. I'm on staff here at the seminary. I'm the acting chief operating officer, and I bring greetings from our president, Dr. Lattimore, since he's not on yet. But I just want to thank Dr. Clayborough for bringing this particular forum for our students, for the community. Chaplaincy is so important, and it covers so many different areas, just not in the hospital and prisons, but in the corporate world. I mean, there's just so many different areas in chaplaincy, and it's growing. So I thank you for your presence. We at Hood, we hear that Lattimore always says that we are a welcoming community, and we are. We welcome you here, and we hope that this particular forum and this event would be a blessing to you, and that you will always be mindful of your role of being about the kingdom's business. So welcome. We besieged your presence, and we thank you for being here, and our love goes to you all. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, John. We appreciate that.
I'm Dr. Reginald Boyd. I am the coordinator for recruitment and admissions here at Hood, as well as alumni engagement. Just wanted to welcome you all to Hood. Good morning, Bishop. Good morning, John. Good morning, Kelly. And definitely good morning, Dr. Clayborough. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. And I look forward to getting more information, as well as giving information if needed.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Boyd, for being here. We appreciate your presence.
You're welcome.
And others?
I'm Kelly Bryant. I also work at Hood. I'm the library assistant and marketing and communications coordinator, and I'll be assisting Dr. Barrow today with the Zoom call. So
we thank God for your presence, Kelly, for helping me out.
Dr. Barrow.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Barrow. This is William Scott. Here's a headshot.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad to see you.
God bless you, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I enjoyed our conversation the other day.
All right. God bless.
All righty. All righty. Anyone else wish to just introduce yourselves before we have a moment of prayer?
Yes.
I'm
Go
Dr.
right
Roy
ahead.
Izzard from Forsyth County Detention Center and Forsyth County Correction Facility, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you today, Dr. Barrow. I hope I can hear some things that will enlighten me and encourage me on my path during this chaplaincy experience that I'm going through currently. It's a wonderful event to be a part of on this day. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, my dear friend. We welcome you into this space. We're glad to see you. All righty. Has everyone had a chance to at least share your name?
All right.
Wonderful. Well, let us have a word of prayer. Eternal and sustaining God, we give you thanks for another opportunity to gather in your name. We thank you for this space that has been created, that we may explore with one another what you have called us to, that we may hear from heaven, that we may hear the cries of your people, that we may be sensitive to the needs that we find all around us. We thank you for every program that is represented, every educator. We thank you for every director. We thank you for the students. We thank you for the curious. And we pray that you have your way. We do not take this opportunity for granted. Use it to your glory. It is in the name of him who's able to keep us from falling we do pray. And let us all say amen. All righty. So I wish to have just a centering moment, but as a person who's been trained through ACPE and through ICPT, oftentimes when we have centering moments, it's not just someone speaking, but involves some level of engagement. It involves some level of engagement. And so I figured that one of the biblical narratives that I love to use from time to time comes to us from the story of the Good Samaritan, the parable of the Good Samaritan. And if you will indulge me for just a moment, I wish to uplift some passages out of the Gospel according to St. Luke chapter 10, beginning at verse 25 in the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition. Just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, what is written in the law? What have you read there? He answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, you have given the right answer. Do this and you will live. But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend. Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? He said, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said to him, go and do likewise. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be unto God. And so many of us are familiar, and I don't want to say all, but many of us are familiar with this parable. And there are a lot of different moving parts. There are a lot of different actors who are a part of this drama as it unfolds, as Jesus tells the narrative. But look at how Jesus begins the narrative. He begins the narrative by, first of all, being engaged in conversation with an attorney. And as he begins the conversation with him, the attorney attempts to entrap Jesus by getting Jesus to say something where he could accuse Jesus of stepping out of bounds of God's covenant and God's plan. And so in this parable, I oftentimes raise the question, what do you see as a chaplain here? What's going on? And with whom do you identify with the most? First of all, looking at the priest, many of us can identify with the priest. We're always busy about the business of taking care of the houses of God. And the Levite, we can identify with that too. But what about the perspective of the chaplain? What do you see here? Looking at the interaction between the Samaritan and the person who's on the ground. What are your thoughts? What's happening here?
Well, the first thing I see is someone who has compassion. And I feel like in order to be a chaplain or even a pastor, I forgot to say that I am also a senior pastor here in a church in Greensboro. But compassion is what I see. I also see a great deal of empathy. In order to empathize with this person who has been attacked and lost not just his dignity, but lost personal belongings of his and is in pain, this person shows a great deal of empathy for him. And the third thing I see is care. The fact that he took the time to pay for this man to get a room afterwards. Those are the three things that I see here from a chaplaincy perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you. Other thoughts?
I like the plan that Pastor laid out. He assessed the situation. He showed how the individual put him in position to serve where he could. And then he set up the aftercare, right? So that's from my mental health mind, but well, how I'm trained, but that's what I see. And overall, it was what I said at the beginning when I introduced myself, being willing to serve, that experience of being obedient, even when it looks crazy to everybody else, right? Because we don't always have the right clothes, but if you be moving by how God moves you, then you be moving how God moves you, right? That's what I hear.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Other thoughts?
This may have been said and I may have missed it, but taking the time to be present with the person, being there with them, showing empathy, as was mentioned before. Too often we will wish someone well who's struggling and then go on our way and forget about it. But to stop and take the time to step into the well with the person, being present, and as was mentioned, not just handing them something and moving them on the way, but walking and making that journey with them.
Thank you, Margaret. Others?
I would like to follow up on what Sister Margaret just said. I love what she said about being present. And one of the things I learned when I was taking care of my brother who was dying of cancer and spending time with him, I learned a lot during that time. And one of the main things I learned was oftentimes because we are a pastor or because we are in some leadership position, we see a problem, we want to solve it. So we do all the talking, we take all the actions. But one of the things that I've learned through being with my brother was the most important thing that we can do is, as my sister said, is be present and listen. That is more important than anything else, I thought. And that's one of the things that I learned from it. And even though this doesn't say that, this Samaritan listened to this person, but I believe he did do quite a bit of interacting and listening to this person, which is what drove him to do the things that he did with like she talked about with this aftercare. So I just wanted to share that that's one of the things I've learned about, being a chaplain, even though I'm not one, but that's what really interested me in becoming one.
Thank you, Audrey.
One of the things I'm thinking about in the point of connection between this story and chaplaincy is kind of the, shall I say, multicultural, multi-religious, kind of ethnic interaction. And that's one of the real gifts, I think, of chaplaincy. But just like the Samaritan was sort of transgressing and not maybe who you might expect to stop and help, or who the listener of that day might have expected to stop and help. So too in chaplaincy, we encounter people from all walks of life, all faiths, and none, and are called to show up for them. And I think that's one of the real gifts, sometimes challenges, but certainly has been a blessing to me personally and professionally.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine.
Good morning, y'all. Deidre McCullers. I'm glad that the scripture doesn't say that he was asked, how did you get in this situation? What led you to this? Were you in the wrong places? Were you hanging around the wrong people? I think a lot of times, because we're in whatever position we're in life, a lot of times we feel like we may be above somebody else. But I'm so thankful that he wasn't concerning himself with what led up to this situation, because it doesn't matter what background you're in, where you come from, because none of us, and I do mean none of us, paid for the sins of the world on the cross. So that means that all of us are equal to all of us. At the end of the day, the Bible teaches in James, what is your life but a vapor? And so I think a lot of times we kind of would like to know, well, how in the world did he get there? I mean, what on earth caused that issue? What difference does that make? You do what you can for whom you can, and thank God that you're able to do so, because a lot of people want to help and can't. But for those of us who can, I think we need to be grateful that we're in a position to help, and we need to help.
Thank you, Deirdre.
I just want to add, everything has been rich so far in what I've heard, but I just wanted to add that this Samaritan helped to restore faith in humankind. With the other two passing by him, sometimes we can get the feeling that nobody really cares anymore. But with this Samaritan taking the time to do what he did, it helped us to know that even in the midst of those who try to harm us, those who hurt us, and those who walk by us without assisting us, we kind of think that that's the way the world is. But every now and then, a Samaritan stops by. It helps us help to restore our faith that there are still good, decent folk in this world. And I just think chaplaincy goes a long way in showing to the world that there are people who care, there are people who are concerned, and there are people who will help you.
Thank you, Bishop, for that perspective. Other reflections, other thoughts?
Good morning. This is Betty Anna. Something that comes to mind for me was the very healthy boundaries that the Good Samaritan practiced. He showed up very empathetically, compassionately, gave excellent care to the wounded, but he also knew when to hand off, when to invite others into this gentleman's care, and when to leave. And I think that those are also really important skills for us as chaplains so that we can continue to do the work of chaplaincy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Betty Anna.
Yeah, Betty Anna, you shared something that was on my mind too, and the whole idea that chaplains are not lone rangers. We're a part of a team, and it's important to recognize what our role in the team is and how to share the load of care. So.
Thank you so much, Emily. And one of the perspectives I wish to offer, the Samaritan saw the person who was wounded. He really saw him. And too often in ministry, if I could be very transparent, I may find myself not seeing what I need to see because of being too much in a hurry to move from one assignment to another. And so being able to see the person, he was able to address the person. But then there's another perspective I have too. The Samaritan understanding that there is a difference between himself and the person who's wounded. And understanding that, wait a minute, I may not be received, but I still have this unction to care. I still have to go forward anyway. So understanding that there may be some biases there, some cultural differences, some preconceived judgments that the Samaritan may have had for the person on the ground too. So the chaplain also has to be aware of his or her biases when they're going into the room or spending time with others. And so in spite of that, he was able to move forward because he saw a need and went through and moved forward with compassion and empathy. Wonderful. Thank you, Clay, and for sharing. Great.
Yes, this is Pastor Scott again. In that, you know, the Bible teaches us that we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves, and as a child of God, if I was hurting, I want someone to help me. And also, it teaches us agape love. I tell my members that when God called me as a pastor, He called me to love all humanity. And you know, when it talks about the sheep and the goats in Matthew 25, you know, when you look at the prison, it says visiting those who are in prison. All laws are broken by those who are in prison. I mean, everything you can think of. So that's telling me that they're all my brothers, and I have to be a neighbor to all. You know, when it comes to people that have murdered people, people that has been involved in child molestation or whatever. And that's, you know, to me, you have to have a real association with God for that agape love, especially when you're dealing with those who are behind bars. Amen.
Thank you so very much for sharing that perspective. We do appreciate it. So we're now going to shift our conversation away from the centering moment now that we have had a chance to just share out of our different perspectives. What does it mean to care and how to care? The purpose of today, again, is to introduce the community to our partners and those we partner with in order to get our students trained in CPE. As a number of people are hearing, God called them to the work of chaplaincy in different arenas. At Hood Theological Seminary, students are able to earn a Master's of Arts in Chaplaincy. But again, we are approaching chaplaincy and the materials that you would need to be a competent chaplain from an academic standpoint. However, we have our friends and partners who are a part of CPE programs, and they are here where they can share with you availability within their programs and can talk with us more about CPE, what it looks like, uh, 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 it looks like on their campus. We have representation from ICPT as well as from ACPE, and you will hear the differences in this space. And so if you are an educator, just so that everyone can see that you are an educator or a director, if you would just raise your hand in this space so that we can see where you are, so we can have a good head count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, wonderful. 4. Wonderful. We have 4. And we also have the Mayo Clinic has submitted a video to share, but I will share that later towards the end of your opportunity to share. For those who are here in person, you may need to leave to carry out your didactics or do your rounds or have your supervision with your students in your respective places. So to make sure that you have that opportunity, we want to make sure you have a chance to go first. And then also, we have set up breakout rooms because I'm quite sure there's some students here today where you want to sit in a space with an educator to find out more detail about the program that they offer, and who has openings, what are the stipends, what are the hours, what's the time frame to earn a unit of CPE, or if I'm interested in not only doing an internship but also doing a residency, what does that look like? What are the job opportunities once I'm done? So if you want to have that time, and if the educator can give you that time, then we want to make sure that you have that opportunity to share. So I want to first of all ask if there is an educator who needs to be out of the space quickly because you have something that's going on at 11 o'clock, then we'd like to be able to honor your time first.
I do have a meeting at 11.
Thank you, Emily. Well, tag your it, my dear sister. Go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. As I mentioned, I'm Emily Viverette. I'm the Director of Chaplaincy here in Winston-Salem in the Atrium Health Market. So Betty Anna Bremer and I are kind of like sisters in the system in different locations. We have a level 1 trauma center. So CPE, for those of you who don't know, is kind of an intensive training in the hospital. Typically hospital settings, not always hospital settings. There are some areas that have other placements. All of ours in our market are in the hospital settings, but we have different kinds of hospitals that you can serve in. We offer 2 kinds of internships. One is an academic year internship, which meets over the course of 9 months. From like the end of August through the beginning of May. The coursework is all on Monday afternoons, mostly in person, and then you can come into any of our facilities and do your clinical hours. You have to do 10 to 12 hours a week. Because unlike some other field education placements, CPE is pretty intensive and you have to have 400 hours, 300 hours in the clinic and 100 hours of education. So it's more intensive than some field education placements and other seminary programs. And we do have some students that get academic credit depending on their seminary. Our other internship option is a full-time internship in the summer. It's very intense. It's 10 weeks straight through, beginning the Tuesday after Memorial Day through the first week of August. We offer a very low, we can't call it stipend. We call it an honorarium. We're trying to figure out like what word we can call it legally in our system, but we offer $3,000 for students in the summer who can come do this full time, knowing it doesn't come anywhere close to covering what you're actually doing, but it's a small offering and we're grateful for the work that you do. We do have a residency program. For board certification through APC, the Association of Professional Chaplains, you need to have 4 units of CPE. So the way our program is structured, we have 1 unit as an internship and 3 units in the residency. So you would complete 4 if you did all 4. And we also offer a fellowship post-residency for people who might be interested. The residents are fully paid employees with benefits. It's a 1-year position. It's an hourly wage right now, and you earn overtime, though that is subject to change due to some new rulings that have just come down the pike. So we don't really know what that's going to mean long term. We really love our program here. Obviously, we have a great, I don't know if I can share, I was going to share a picture of our staff, and there's a QR code.
Yes, you can.
And so if you're interested in our program, you're welcome to use the QR code to, let me see. Can everyone see that? So here's a QR code that would take you to, if you're interested in a program in our area, like I said, Winston, Lexington, Davie, Wilkesboro, or High Point, You can kind of submit your information there, and our certified educator, Angel Lee, would be the admissions coordinator. She helps get everybody into our slots. We usually have 6 to 8 interns at a time, sometimes as many as 10, depending on how we're staffed. And we have 8 first-year residents, 2 fellows. So these are our certified educators. These are our staff chaplains on the Winston campus. And then these are our High Point chaplains. And these are our chaplains at each of our smaller facilities. So I don't know if there are questions. I can also post in the chat the link to our website if you can't get to it.
Wonderful.
So I'm happy to pause for questions. I'm sure our other educators will show me up and tell you lots of really other wonderful things about their programs. We're really lucky to be in an area, if you're in North Carolina, that they're really strong programs. So I don't think you can go wrong. Although, you know, of course, I'm biased towards our program, but all the educators on here are wonderful. And so I don't think you can go wrong. I would encourage you, as you're looking, if you're considering chaplaincy as a profession, to start looking at like the job listings and looking at what people expect or need. We're still a relatively young profession, and you know, the newest and hottest jobs in this market are hospice jobs. And depending on the hospice, there are varying degrees of education required. And I will say the less education required, the less they pay, typically, in my experience. So those are kind of my little pieces of advice. But I think CPE is a wonderful opportunity to do some deepening of self-understanding. We really believe in, you know, how we understand ourselves really helps us know how we're going to show up in the world in ministry. And so the first unit of CPE is heavily involved in self-awareness and self-understanding while you're also learning some clinical skills. And then as you move into the residency, it's more focused on clinical competence and ongoing self-awareness. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you all for letting me go first. I'm sorry I have something else to do at 11. I will hang on till 11, though. I'm happy to be a part of this. Thank you for the invitation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Emily. We appreciate it. Thank you. Another educator, please. Or first of all, Emily did ask if there were any questions for her.
What does a residency entail?
Residency entails, it is a full-time Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, plus being on call, which means actually being in the hospital overnight. We have a call room. Typically you're working, the way our schedule's working out this year is you're working 44 to 48 hours a week, with 4 to 8 hours of overtime, each week. The pay isn't great right now. I can't remember what the hourly wage is, but the annual stipend is about $38,000 a year. So like you say, you know, people don't usually go into the ministry for money, and it's true in chaplaincy too. But you also have all the same curriculum you have in a level 1 unit. You have didactics, individual supervision. Each unit is 100 hours of structured education. It's just much more intensive in the clinic. You have more units that you're covering, more patients that you have, and much more involvement with the interdisciplinary team. Post-COVID, really care for staff has gone up in our expectations because there's so much moral distress and healthcare worker distress right now that we do a lot of staff care. Mm-hmm.
Can you name the places that you said you all are located in? I tried to get the QR code, but I couldn't.
Sure. So our locations are High Point Medical Center. I'll put them in the chat too. High Point Medical,
okay.
Lexington Medical Center, Wilkes Medical Center, which is up in Wilkes County, and Davie Medical Center, which is in Bermuda Run in Davie County, and Winston-Salem, where the level 1 trauma hospital is.
And you said the pay yearly is 38?
somewhere in that range. And these are all in North Carolina.
A huge job.
Other questions for Emily? Thank you very much. And we also welcome Dr. Virgil Lattimore, the president of Hood Theological Seminary, who has joined us on today. We're so delighted that you're here, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Hood Theological Seminary. And I'm delighted that you've joined us, both the centers and the prospective students. So CP is very close to my heart because it got me into this work. Although I went the pastoral counseling route and marriage and family therapy route, I started in CPE at St. Elizabeth's in Washington, D.C. at the National Institute of Mental Health. That took that my middle year in seminary, and that kind of crystallized my interest. So thank you very much. Look forward to hearing from each of you. Thank you, Dr. Barrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Betty-Anna, if you do not mind, if you could share your program.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Barrow, for having me today. As Emily shared, we're sisters in Advocate Health. And so my programming is located in the Charlotte Central Division. We offer down in that area 2 residencies, one at Cabarrus and the other at CMC Maine. And then we offer 4 internships. There's an internship at Maine at CMC Maine is our level 1 trauma center, at Atrium Health Union, which is located in Monroe, and Atrium Health Cleveland, which is located in Shelby. And then my program that I oversee is located in behavioral health. And so we have 2 behavioral health hospitals, one in Behavioral Health Charlotte and one in Davidson. And my students serve both of those hospitals. Some are assigned to the Davidson Hospital, some are assigned to the Charlotte Hospital. My program is an internship, and I offer 2 extended units a year. Extended units go over about 5 months. The benefit of my unit is that we have a tremendous amount of flexibility. It's designed for folks who have other jobs, other ministries that they're doing in addition to their CPE. So all of my education is held in the evenings. We have education on Tuesday evenings from 5 to 9. And then our clinical hours are flexible. And so you can serve your clinical hours anytime between 8 in the morning and 9 at night, 7 days a week. You get to choose when you want to serve those hours. There is one exception to that rule, and that is my students do chapel services and spirituality groups, and those happened at dedicated times. So you would go on a rotation schedule of every 5 to 6 weeks. You would have to serve the chapel and spirituality groups, and those are on Sunday afternoons and Wednesday evenings. But if it's not your turn to do the Sunday afternoon or Wednesday evening, then you get to choose when you want to do your hours. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of scheduling in my behavioral health internship. I will say, unfortunately, at this time, we do not have a stipend with our internships. The residencies are paid similar to what Emily described. I think that they're in the $38,000 range. Not a lot, but things change all the time, so we're always hopeful. But at this time, in our central Charlotte division, none of our internships are paid internships. And there is not a stipend for those. They are 400 hours accredited through ACPE. You'll do the 300 clinical hours and then the 100 academic hours as well. And it's just a really great learning opportunity. We have such wonderful support from our leaders. My senior leaders serve on my professional advisory group. They're very involved in exit interviews and teaching students, and there's just a tremendous amount of support from the system in terms of supporting the clinical pastoral education program. And as Emily mentioned before, we're seeing a tremendous amount of staff stress and burnout. So I always tell my students that you are working as a chaplain for our patients, but you are also working as a chaplain for our teammates, because they also need the chaplain, and they have really become accustomed to calling on the chaplain to share their personal needs, to get a listening ear in times of stress, to have you come up to their unit and provide some care to the team if they've had a particularly difficult day. So the chaplains are highly valued in our healthcare systems, and there's always wonderful opportunity for great ministry in our spaces. Any questions for me? Yes.
I'm sorry. Betty-Anna, your place is in Charlotte area, is that correct?
Yeah, so I have two hospitals that my students serve. One is in Charlotte off of Billingsley Avenue, and then the other one is in Davidson, North Carolina.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think my question is actually for the sisters, right? What is the care for the chaplains? Because I hear you saying that the chaplains are supporting the hospital. How are the chaplains being supported?
You know, that's an excellent question. And our CPE programs, and I'm sure that the same is true of Emily's program and Catherine's, our CPE programs are designed in such a way that we are supportive to the students who are caring for the patients. So you will have opportunities within your peer group to get support from one another. You would have written into your program individual supervision, where you'll have one-on-one times with your educator to have supportive care in those spaces. I know in my program, because we are so connected to mental health, we do a lot of education around and practicing around mindfulness and meditation and some of the integrative care practices. We also encourage our students to set goals for themselves. In one of those goals, we ask them to practice a goal of compassionate self-care. They get to define what that looks like for them. But also we do want them to be mindful and set goals of compassionate self-care for themselves. Mm-hmm.
I have another question, and I might be jumping ahead, but I noticed there are some programs that require that you have an MDiv. There are other programs that allow you to have an MA in chaplaincy. One, why is that? What drives those requirements? And then secondly, is there an advantage of having one as opposed to other? So for example, with the VA, they require, based on what I saw, they require that you have an MDiv and a certification in chaplaincy, also with the U.S. military. So for someone who's like myself is still, I'm in the MDiv program, but I'm really interested in chaplaincy, would I hurt my chances of getting to a good chaplaincy program by switching to an MA in chaplaincy as opposed to an MDiv in chaplaincy?
Well, I'll take a stab at this, and others can chime in as well. I don't want to speak for the VA or the military chaplaincies, because that's not my realm, and I wouldn't be able to speak to that with any kind of authority. I will say that within our CPE programs, what drives the desire for the MDiv is the board certification through a professional chaplains. That is a requirement for certification in professional chaplaincy. And I think that an MA is as acceptable as well as MDiv. The issue is the number of credit hours that you have. And I believe the requirement is 74, 72. 72, okay, and for certification as a professional chaplain. So if your MA program provides you with 72 hours, that probably would meet requirements, but MDiv is kind of the gold standard where we know that you'll have the hours that you need in order to meet board certification standards. And so that's certainly, I think, the bigger driver in what requiring that for residencies. I will also say that, you know, we do look at clinical pastoral education as a higher level of theological. It's hands-on theological education, theological experience. And so we want you to have the tools necessary that an MDiv would give you in order to be able to do that theological processing in your work. And so that we do value, I think, higher education in terms of student acceptances. Now, having said all of that, I do have accepted students that are either in the process of their graduate work or still trying to discern which way they want to go in their graduate work. And so I have accepted students that do not yet have completed their graduate work. I do think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think our residencies do require the graduate degree, though.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, speaking of why MDiv, I mean, chaplaincy has evolved quite a bit. It used to, especially in the major cities, would accept 2 units, but it's becoming more where they're looking for someone who's got 4 units of CPE and board certified. And definitely that is the case in the VA. That's becoming a market standard. And in my experience, there's a lot of hospital systems or correctional facilities that have CPE on their requirements, but because of the lack of candidates in the past, they have forego of that and hired someone who has lesser qualification. But as the field is maturing, someone have already said we're early. We're in infancy, basically, as a profession. If you would compare that to, I guess, social work many years ago. And the hope is that we're going to uh, be that. And I think there's a great awareness now for chaplaincy. Even medical schools are incorporating spirituality as part of intervention. I think you will see a more of a standardized. They're looking for a standardized qualification that would we meet. And majority of your open positions right now, especially in the VA, do require a minimum of MDiv, but you will still find chaplaincy positions like in hospice in the rural areas where it's further away that would accept less than that. But I think as the chaplaincy profession go towards maturity, that you will look more about you will be looking at more of a standardized qualification for doing such.
Thank you.
And thank you. Ramel, if you do not mind, would you also share your program?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't raise my hand a while ago because I don't I am not currently working as an educator, but of course ICPT follows the standard curriculum or requirement for CPE, which is 300 clinicals hours and then 100 educational hours. The difference is the 100 hours can be done in an interactive manner or on site. We have facilities all over the nation that has offered in person training. We have residency as well, training. But a lot of our folks it provides flexibility wherein you don't have to change location. You can do your educational portion 100 hours, which can be done through a virtual classroom. So you'll be in a room with chaplains or those who are pursuing chaplaincy from different parts of the country, and sometimes multidiscipline. And you'll be in that same room. But of course, you have to have 300 hours of clinicals, which is you're going to find it will be the responsibility of the student to find a clinical site wherein they could do their 300 hours that's required to be part of the program. ICPT is a little bit, it's your, what would you expect in CPE? It's a action reflection process, right? But the only difference with what says with CPE, ICPT is that we are probably the first CPE program that has a standardized curriculum. So what that means is that if you were taking CPE, in California, and someone is taking CPE in Alabama, it's not going to be different because our curriculum is vetted by our accreditor, which is ASSET, a Department of Education accrediting agency, and we are held to that standard, making sure that the content that we deliver is what we say we are going to deliver. So that's probably distinctive of ICPT. Now, I'm not going to speak for others. I have 2 units of ACPE. It was part of my seminary degree, um, and maybe this is subjective observation, but I think for me the difference of my previous experience in CPE is that the process, right? Quite often in CPE is there's this construction of your theological perspective, and then you get built up. In ICPT, on the other hand, we want to affirm your why, or in the or your call, and we want you to embrace your distinctiveness. And majority of the training is really having that self awareness that you don't get in the way of helping the person in front of you. So it's looking at theological implications of what it means to minister in a marketplace, what it means to provide spirituality in the marketplace, and how does that interact with your own distinctive beliefs and call. And so at the end of the day, it's training, having that awareness that you know who you are, you know what drives you, but at the same time looking at that person in front of you, making sure that mutual respect is there, and that you restore human dignity. So that's kind of the distinctiveness of ICPT. So um, um, and so our program, there's a residency program, and it's a hybrid program where you do your classroom online, but you do your clinical on site. So, any questions?
Romeo, I have probably a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
One, being a veteran myself, my
Mhm.
interest is definitely working with the VA, with veterans,
Uh-huh.
because I
sir.
see such a sincere need. So if for someone like myself, how would would I be able to apply to enter the CPE program without having finished my degree?
Yes, you can. It's like with ICPT. Of course, the minimum requirement is uh, having an MDiv, or you have bachelor's degree with 2 years of professional experience, or if it's a high school graduate and they have 4 years or 4 years or 5 years of professional experience. But in terms of the VA, because we want to make sure that those who are involved in caring for people are not people that are really young, don't have experience in life, making sure that they are in a place that they could really minister to others. But in the VA, the minimum, if you're interested in the VA, the minimum is MDiv. There's no wiggle room for that. There's no wiggle room for that. So it's MDiv and 4 units of CPE and and sometimes I've seen where they will wait for your board certification to come when you get hired, but normally they look for that before you get hired. But I'll encourage you to apply to the VA because being a veteran yourself, one thing I'm a veteran myself. One of the things that I have come to appreciate of being in the VA is that they definitely unique. They deal with different things, and the fact that I have been in that life,
Right.
it really has been very very rewarding. Um, and at the same time, being a veteran, you get I think so many points towards what's there. So I think to position yourself, if that's your goal, is to position yourself is to definitely get your Master's of Divinity. You can start taking your CPE now.
Right.
Some people wait, but sometimes that's what I kind of wonder as well, because that's why we try to partner with seminaries that have a chaplaincy track, because quite often their chaplains graduate and then they have to take a year or 2 years of CPE before they get qualified. So sometimes if that CPE becomes incorporated in that track, maybe it's an elective or part of the program, then their graduates become, as soon as they finish, they're ready to run, and apply. So, but we have partnerships with seminaries for that reason. But yes, if VA is your goal, definitely MDiv is your target. You can start your CPE journey now, as long as you have, by the time you're ready to apply for the VA, you have 4 units and board certified, and I
Board certified.
became a board certified chaplain.
Who would I contact within the VA to talk to them about the program?
Well, there are different VA facilities that have programs, right? Right now, I know when you contact the chief of chaplain on that particular facility. Right now, the VA site says that the qualifications for VA employment is having CPE units finish. That is recognized by the Department of Education, and ICBT is. We're accredited by ASSET, which is a Department of Education accrediting agency. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you very
All
much
right.
for the information.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Any other?
I have a question. This is Wanda.
Uh-huh.
So this is where I'm at. I want to do chaplaincy in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 questions. One is, does chaplaincy, number one, I didn't get the name of your agency.
The Institute for Clinical Pastoral Training, which is ICPT. Our website is icpt.edu.
Okay. All right. Your residency, is there a salary with that?
I do know that some of our place, particularly Cox Health, they have a salary. Specifics of that, I do not know. I could definitely give you a contact person.
Yeah.
If you email me, my email is Ramel, RAMEL Cuenca, CUENCA @icpt.edu. And those details, what we do is we have affiliation agreements with this facility, and we don't mandate how their program in terms of stipend and time allotment and things like that, as long as they follow the accredited standard that we have. No, that was approved by our accreditor.
Okay. So my other question is on emotional intelligence. Do you all incorporate that in your program?
Yes, ma'am. That's action reflection, action reflection.
Action reflection.
Yeah, CPE is about action reflection. So you do your clinical, and then you go into your classroom, and then and to kind of look at, not exactly of what's happening in that encounter, but usually it's what's happening in you.
Okay.
And so that's really the focus. Part of that is self-awareness, because quite often, just like I appreciate the start, the story of the Samaritan, because quite often we see our with the priest and the Levite. Sometimes you get into the four walls of what is expected of you in the denomination and so forth and so on, but yet we forget the person. It kind of remind me when Jesus says, "What are you going to do with oxwood if it falls in the well?"
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the focus of the training is really it's really going on with developing your theology of ministry in the marketplace, and to really be aware of what's going on in you rather than what's going on in the encounter.
So I like the idea of the virtual, because I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of the virtual and the hybrid. I'm just concerned as to if my clinicals would need to be in a hospital, or if I can do my clinicals in a high school.
Well, there's different what's this there's different, especially right now, there's a growing context for chaplaincy. We have chaplaincy in the bank.
Yeah.
Tyson Foods is probably the largest private corporate uh, uh, that hires chaplaincy. I think they have about, if I'm not mistaken, about 300, I think. But we have, and we have been in what's this? We have been we have partnered with them to train their chaplains. There's a growing um, uh, it's just the context is becoming more broad as chaplaincy is growing, as people are needing for spiritual support. And the beauty about ICPT is, unlike your traditional CPE, that you will be in an environment where, let's say, you did your CPE in a hospital, then you will be sitting with everyone in the hospital, right? That are involved in the hospital, talking about the patients. But in ICPT, you get the opportunity of your classmate in the virtual room could be military chaplains, involved in military chaplain, could be involved in corporate chaplaincy. They could be involved in what's this in corrections. And so it's just our experience is that it seems it's making the time together very rich, because you're not only getting a perspective from a hospital perspective, but you're also getting perspectives from different contexts of chaplaincy, because chaplaincy is about meeting where people are, and and restoring and basically treating people with respect, and elevating human dignity. So ministering to people regardless of background, orientation, or beliefs. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So then this is my last question is, I noticed that in my research that there is a school that does chaplaincy, but they don't require you to have all of the units. They don't require you to have the 400 hours and all of that. They give them maybe one unit, and it's just pretty basic. My question is, why? It seemed like that would be when you're dealing with students, it seemed like that would really what's the word I'm looking for? A disservice to the student to not have all of the training and the requirement and the units and the qualifications going into a school system. So I'm just wondering why they and you may not know the answer to that, or it may be a presupposition to it or whatever. But I'm just wondering, why they would shave off that qualifications like that.
Yeah, let me take a stab based on my experience. Okay.
Okay.
I finished my MDiv, emphasis on pastoral care, and I was required to have 2 units. And in my interaction with other seminaries, the challenge that comes is that CPE is so intensive, 400 hours, and if you quantify that and put it in a regular seminary, it adds so much. The credit hours that's going to be assigned to it becomes a little bit difficult. So quite often we become, a lot of seminaries that we deal with, we use CPE provided by outside and just accept it as an elective. And part of the reasoning for that was because they also have a standardized, process of how many units. I don't know if that's true to all, but especially with the ones that I've encountered, and I think that's the reason for, being able to accommodate a few. But there's a change. There's a growing change out there that's offering a postgraduate chaplaincy program wherein 4 units of CPE is included. It's a growing thing. So just like what's mentioned earlier, our profession is indeed in its infancy, right? Um, uh, and I think as our profession matures, I think a lot of organizations and institution will strengthen their program by doing so. Because you're right, sometimes you graduate, you have to take a pause of a year to 2 years before you can really move on to chaplaincy, especially in, let's say if you were going to the VA, because you finish your degree, you had to do your CPE, and so some get a head start, but yet 4 units is at least a minimum of 2 year journey. So, and not everybody that's going through the MD program can handle 4 units while going through their MD program. But that's a good question. But I think in fairness to our educational system, they're doing their best. And I think as we learn more and as the field is maturing, I think the profession and the educational training is going to merge, and we'll see an evolution in making sure that that happens. Yeah, part of that is the growing pains. That's the growing pains of chaplaincy. I don't think it's intentional. They're doing their best for what they're allowed to do within the limits of their accreditation.
Okay.
Now, that's just my personal experience. Maybe some people have a different, experience in that. Any other question?
Yeah, and Ramel, thank you so much for that. And if you have an opportunity, could you place your information or the contact information for the administrators with ICPT in the chat, as well as the website to the ICPT program, so others can tap into that if they choose.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right.
And I will have to leave meeting as well because I had to, but
Understood.
I'd like to assess if there's any other question after I leave. Please email me, and I will respond appropriately. Okay, we'll put down my contact information and my uh, uh, email. I'll even put my phone number and then our website.
All righty. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And one of the other programs represented here is from Duke Hospitals, and that's Catherine Higgins. And so, Catherine, if you could share with us about your program, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks so much. I agree with Emily Viverette, who said that there is almost an embarrassment of riches in North Carolina when it comes to CPE. There are a lot of great programs, and so one of the ways I think about it is to really think about the context where you want to be. Context matters a lot. So let me tell you some of the distinctives about Duke University Hospital. I am at what's sometimes referred to as Big Duke. That is in Durham, right on the Duke campus in Durham. We are a level 1 trauma center. We have a number of intensive care units, about 1,200 beds. So it's a large trauma academic medical center. With that comes both challenges and opportunities, as you might imagine. There's a real intensity to the clinical environment. And you know, we a lot is asked of our students and staff. We currently have residency, internship, and supervisory training. And as regards the internships, we have a couple different choice options. We do an intensive summer unit, which is full-time for 11 weeks. We have semester-long programs. So we're, fall semester, spring semester, and these are generally about 17 weeks. And then we have an academic year program. So that runs from September through April. The semester-long programs are about 20 hours a week. And the academic year program is about 10 hours a week, and that includes both education and clinical. One option, which may be of interest to folks on this call, is that in our academic year program, interns have the option of doing about half of their clinical hours in some other ministry setting. So if you're serving a church, say, you could do half your hours in your church and half your hours at the hospital. And so that makes it sometimes a bit more doable for folks who are juggling multiple ministry opportunities. Let's see, what else can I tell you? One of the things that I would say, in addition to the context, another distinctive of our program is the collegiality within our department. We have about 6 staff chaplains who we call them Senior Clinical Administrative Chaplains, or SCACs. And the senior chaplains serve as mentors to the residents and interns. And so while you meet with the educator one-on-one each week, and you meet with the peer group each week, you also meet with the senior chaplain mentor. And we found this to be a really rich learning environment, because you get to hear from and learn from people who are doing the work of professional chaplaincy. They are generally very well integrated with staff in their units, with leadership in the units, and they can help navigate, if there's a particular clinical concern, or, say you want to, I don't know, there's a need for a staff care program. They can help sort of identify who are the right people and ways to make something like that happen. So that's something that we're pretty proud of our colleagues who are senior chaplains and their work with our CPE students. We do have a small stipend for our internship programs. It's $1,500 for the internship. As someone's said, I agree with, you are not going to get rich doing this, but it's hopefully a little bit that helps. And then our residency is they are also paid hourly, but we're at $40,000 for the year. And right now there's some possibility for overtime, which our residents like a lot. But that's a little bit of a moving target. As somebody mentioned, the laws are changing, and our hospitals are responding to that, even as our educators are saying, boy, these folks are working really, really hard. Let's make it worthwhile for them. So I am happy to answer more questions. Y'all have heard a lot already about CPE, and I don't want to go through some of the things that are similar, but if you have program questions about our program, I will say just briefly, Duke Raleigh also has a program. They are part of the Duke system, but they're a separate CPE program. So I don't have a lot of details about their program, but just in case that is of interest or confusing to folks.
And Catherine, who's the director there? Do you know?
At Duke University Hospital, the director is John Oliver.
Right. Duke Raleigh.
Duke Raleigh is Adrian Dixon.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Are there questions for Catherine? And thank you for sharing that, Catherine, and your program and the distinction between your program, how it distinguishes itself from Betty-Anna's location and Emily's location, Ramel's locations. Thank you for that. Very helpful. Are there any questions for our educators?
I have a question for Catherine. All of your internship classes or CPE classes, are they held at your physical facility there in Raleigh? Are they online, or how are those classes conducted?
Well, we're in Durham, so that's some of the confusion. Most of our internships are on site. The classes are held on site, though occasionally some of the groups will, for various reasons, opt to meet virtually, but that is typically it wouldn't be like the whole internship. That would be a kind of a as needed sort of occurrence.
Okay.
In other words, you couldn't really plan on it being an online program.
Correct. And how does one apply for the program if they're interested in applying for the program?
Yeah, I'll drop my email address in here again, and if you want to reach out, I'll be happy to send you our application materials. We have a fairly standard ACPE application, and then we do an interview with a member of our faculty, or for the residency with several members of our team.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Catherine? I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Other questions? Well, Catherine, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been very, very helpful and very enlightening.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks to everyone for showing up.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the last presentation I have today is from the Mayo Clinic. And so if there aren't any questions for the educators who are still with us, most of them have had to go to other meetings. And so Catherine, I'm glad you're still here just in case just in case those questions will come up that I cannot answer. And so we are going to shift now to the Mayo Clinic and hear from them. It's about a 10-minute presentation. All right. Okay, if you can see the screen, give me a thumbs up. All right.
Hello, my name is Karen Heastand, and I am currently the Program Director for CPE in the Mayo Clinic School of Health Sciences. I am delighted to be able to present this brief introduction to our program, and I hope that you'll consider coming to our clinic in the cornfields, otherwise known as a world-renowned, world-class hospital, Mayo Clinic. It is a place where people come to find healing, often after they have exhausted every other avenue possible. Mayo Clinic is a great place to learn the fine art of providing spiritual care to those of many varied faiths and those who identify as not having any faith at all. We have a multi-faith and highly creative staff who serve as mentors to our students, along with ACPE certified educators and educators in training who lead didactics, lead verbatims, IPR, and do individual supervision with students each week. We look forward to receiving your application. You could say that Mayo Clinic, as it exists today, was born in a storm. The 1883 tornado that literally devastated Rochester and brought the doctors Mayo, Dr. William Worrell Mayo and his sons, Dr. William and Dr. Charlie, and the Franciscan sisters together as partners in healing. Their collaboration, which was sealed with a handshake, led to the founding of St. Mary's Hospital, a revolutionary innovation in its methods as well as its philosophy. St. Mary's was one of the very first hospitals to use the antiseptic theory in surgical practice. In contrast to many hospitals of the time, it was neither an asylum for the poor nor a convalescent home for the well-to-do. Rather, it was a hospital that provided nothing but the finest care and had a far greater success rate in surgery than most hospitals of the day. St. Mary's has always been committed to providing high-quality, compassionate care for all, regardless of race, creed, or financial means. St. Mary's became the incubator for Mayo Clinic's greatest innovation, the Mayo Clinic model of care, an integrated, multi-specialty practice focused on the needs of the patient. This dynamic model of care has driven Mayo's expansion far beyond the original clinic in a cornfield. Our primary value at the center of this DNA model is the needs of the patient come first. And it's supported by 8 core values around it that we call our DNA. That DNA guides all of what we do here at Mayo Clinic. The needs of the patient come first is not just a nice motto, but it is lived out every day by everyone involved in Mayo's 3 shields: patient care, education, where CPE falls, and research. We are guided too by the Mayo values known as rich ties. 2 of these values stand out to me today, at least. Teamwork is one, for we are known for the seamless work between the various departments who all contribute to the welfare of our patients. The IDT, or the interdisciplinary team on each unit, meets daily to review the needs of the patient and to make sure that those needs are met. Our chaplains and our CPE students become a very important part of the holistic care of our patients through their work with the IDT. Innovation is another value I love to talk about. A few years ago, a violinist came here seeking help with a tremor that was preventing him from playing his instrument. One of the research teams had recently been working on a way to place electrodes in the brain where tremors originated. And this violinist carried his violin into the OR, where he lay on his side, and the team placed an electrode in his brain. And he was invited then to play his violin, and it was so much improved. But then the team said, well, wait, we'll place one more electrode. And they did, and the tremors stopped. That patient returned to playing with the symphony 3 weeks later with a button on his lapel that he could push to stop the tremor so he could play. Innovation, one of our core values. CPE at Mayo Clinic comes in 3 forms. It comes in the form of a summer internship that you may be interested in if you are a seminary student. This provides an intro to spiritual care, a focus on listening skills, trauma-informed care, interfaith care, family systems, genograms, and a look at the Enneagram and how we are each given particular gifts. The CPE residency is a September through August program that involves taking 3 units of CPE, ACPE levels 1B through 2B. Spiritual care at Mayo Clinic is the first piece. Theology of healing is important. The Enneagram is studied more fully. Trauma-informed care is provided, and cultural humility and confidence become very important in this first unit. The second unit involves the interface between psychological issues and the spiritual care of our patients. We use family systems, faith development, and clinical ethics, all in the provision of this care. And finally, the third unit tries to tie the whole year together with some more systems work so that we understand how hospital systems work, how family systems work more clearly, and how we carry things with us from generation to generation. And as a way of summarizing and integrating the year's work, students have an opportunity to write board certification papers that might be models for their later application to the board certification commission. We also have certified educators in training here. We have 2 CECs currently who are working through the process to become educators. And they work with our interns and our residents. We also hope that you will consider being a part either of our summer internship or our CPE residency. We have much to offer you here, and we hope that you might be part of our summer unit or year-long residency so that you can provide us with your gifts, and so that together we might refine our work as spiritual caregivers to our patients. May you be blessed. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We're grateful for that piece from the Mayo Clinic. And so those who have come today, we thank you for being with us, and we're going to keep our channels open in case there are any questions for any of us here, be it a question for me as a faculty person from Hood, for Catherine, who is an educator at Duke Hospital. Any other questions today? And for those who did not see the chat, this presentation today will be available on the Hood website for further connection with the material and details there. Wanda, I saw your hand.
Yeah, she didn't say if there was a stipend for the summer internship, and she didn't say anything about the finances for the residency. Is there one or not?
You would need to reach out to her directly.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Yeah, I cannot answer for them.
What's her information, her phone number or email?
That information, the information that she has provided is a part of the PowerPoint that she sent. And so you would see it there. I have not been given permission to give out any information. And so what I can do, if you have any questions specifically for the director and you cannot find her email, I will be glad to send that to her and share your information if you wish. And
Okay.
then you can establish that contact with them that way.
Okay. That would be great.
Okay.
I'm going to drop in the chat a link to the ACPE directory of programs. So if you're in, I think I heard somebody in Rochester earlier. If wherever you are, you can look for programs that are near you.
Other questions?
No, but I'd like to make a small announcement if that's all right with you.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. For those of you who may be inquiring about achieving your MDiv or a Master's of Arts in Chaplaincy, I put my information in the chat. Just feel free to reach out to me by email or by phone, and we'll get you started.
All righty. We thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right. Other questions? Yes, Jimmy.
You can call me Jay. That's fine. So you know my situation as I explore, I don't have an MDiv, but I didn't want to like take up all the time. I've got a master's of science in counseling. So how am I even able to sit in this space? Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Catherine, if you do not mind, can you address that as an educator where you are?
Sure. So here's the conversation I would have with you if you called up and said, "Hey, I'm interested in CPE at your center, and I have an MS, not an MDiv, or not a theology degree, maybe." I would say you're welcome to start with an internship. Our internships don't require a master's in some kind of theological studies. And then I would want to have a conversation with you about your goals. If you're interested in pursuing professional chaplaincy, there are a couple routes to go. But one of the okay, so the Association for Professional Chaplains, APC, they certify chaplains in the field. They have a process for what's called an equivalency, and it's fairly in-depth. But say you don't have an MDiv, but you have a master's and you have some professional experience and you have some CPE and you have, various other things, you can go through that equivalency process that determines, yes, you have all the prerequisites to be a board certified chaplain. So if you're looking at my program, I would want to have that conversation with you sooner rather than later, because I don't, I've seen it happen where programs will say, "Oh, we need students, come, come, come," and it's not really in the student's interest, because they get sort of halfway in and then realize, "Oh, I got to go back and do an MDiv, or I don't have what I need." And so I like to have that conversation a little bit sooner. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. But I don't know if it's also very complicated. So I hope I'm being clear.
You are being very clear. Dr. Barrow knows my situation is complicated, honey. So which is why Jamisha showed up this morning. But I thank you for trying to offer some clarity. It did. What I heard was, there are options, but even within those options, there are nuances that I would have to have an offline conversation about to see if it does fit. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and also I'm dropping in the chat the professional APC website, which, if that is your goal to become a board certified professional chaplain, it can be helpful just to do a gut check with their requirements and just say, am I on track? Am I not? Yeah, there are also other certifying agencies. They're not the only one, but they're the largest. And yeah. But I know like NAVAC is a certifying organization for VA chaplains specifically. So if that's where you're headed, that may be the place to look into what their requirements are. There's also other organizations that I've worked with and know, the National Association of Catholic Chaplains and Neshama, the Association of Jewish Chaplains. I don't know that any of those would be relevant to folks on this call, but I'll just mention them just so you know the field.
So, Catherine, in other words, do not discount yourselves, because it's individualized in terms of how teams, how programs, how committees, how they see your work and how they see what you bring to the table. So do not think that because I do not fit these categories by other people's standards, that a door would be shut for you. One closed door can lead to an open door.
That'll preach.
Yeah. Other thoughts? So if there aren't any questions, how was this day for you?
I have a quick question.
Okay, go right ahead, Wanda.
For Hood CPE program, I heard you say earlier you all don't do the clinical part of it.
That's correct.
So how can you tell me how Hood CPE program works?
Thank you. Well, first of all, we do not have a CPE program. What we offer, we teach classes along the lines of the academic work you would do in CPE. Okay. And also, if you are in a CPE program, you heard something that Ramel shared before he had to get off the call. We work in conjunction with CPE programs, as you're doing a lot of academic work in a CPE program. And so you're able to earn, and of course you have to pay for it, academic credit over at Hood. So if you were in the Master of Divinity program at Hood, and you chose to do CPE concurrently while you're pursuing your Master of Divinity, you could elect to pay for 3 to 6 credit hours per unit that you take of CPE. Okay, so we work collaboratively with you where we partner with the CPE program. But we do not have a CPE program at Hood.
How does that look for the DMin student, Dr. Barrow?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask that. Yeah.
For the DMin student, because the DMin program, you do not have the option of having CPE as an elective. You do not have that option. Now, if you want to take CPE while you are engaged in your DMin work, that is your prerogative, of course. But we cannot give you academic credit for that.
So we could take it, but we wouldn't get the credit.
Correct. Not academic credit.
So what would the credit be? Just that we did it?
That'll be on your personal transcript, but not on ours.
Maybe. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Barrow, now in our DMin track for CPE supervision, students who come to Hood with CPE credit. In fact, we have our first student who's now doing that. She happens to be an Air Force active duty chaplain. We will provide credit that they have she has already taken CPE, so she could get credit for that. She will get credit for that in our doctoral program.
Right, but you have to come with it
Yeah,
already.
they bring the credit with them. They've already they've already completed CPE. So if they're in the in the DMin program, that is looked at so that, but they're already en route to become a supervisory level individual.
Right.
All right.
But there's nothing for the DMin. It would be basically an audited class. Right. Is that right?
When you say audited class, what do you mean? And Wanda, I also want to ask, would it be better for you and I to have this conversation offline?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, I think that some of the detail that you and I would get into would go longer than what we need for the entire gathering to hear. So if you would allow me to have a one-on-one conversation with you offline, or after we're out of this space, I would really welcome that.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. All right. Other questions? Other comments? How was this day for you?
It's good.
It was informative.
Very informative.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. And if you didn't have all of your questions addressed, you had at least some of them addressed, and you know more than you knew before coming. And so we want to thank all of our CPE educators. I know most of them have gone. Catherine, thank you for hanging in there with us. Really appreciate your presence. Bishop Frencher, thank you for being with us. You have jumped on in as the bishop in residency. You are everywhere, and we do appreciate that, and the support that you give to the seminary and to all the different programs. And to the students, whether you are doctoral students or master's students or you're not a student at Hood, we thank you for being with us on today. Your presence helped to make this a success. And so we thank you for being here. And Dr. Lattimore, thank you. In spite of all of your business, you're here with us too. So we are truly grateful for this opportunity. And if there are any questions for me, please do not hesitate to reach out to me at cbarrow at hoodseminary.edu. Most of you know that, but I can place that in the chat as well, and we can keep this conversation going. Okay, well, if there's nothing further, everyone, I bid you God's blessings And thank you again for being with us. And we will talk again soon. And Wanda, please feel free to stay as we stop the recording.
Okay.